I'm immigration lawyer John Khosravi, and today we're going to go over the top 5 things N-470 applicants who are religious workers need to know before deciding to file an application to preserve their residence. So, really, basically, the N-470 is intended for people who are going to be green card holders but staying outside the United States for extended periods of time. And typically, that creates problems for citizenship having these long absences, but there's a way to preserve your green card and the time you had here for citizenship, and it's by filing for N-470. Typically, it's for people that are in government capacity work or work for international corporations. But there is a part of the regulations for N-470 for those who are ministers and perform priestly functions for religious denominations, bona fide organizations in this space to be able to preserve residence. So these are the 5 things I really want you to know. It's kind of hard if you go online and try to study it. It's all over the place, but I kind of wanted to put it in one place, give an idea. And if you want to have a private consultation about your case, just go to our website, jqqlaw.com/contact, fill in the boxes there, and we'll contact you about scheduling a consultation. So the first thing you have to know is very interesting is the requirement for most Form M-470s is that the green card holder have been inside the United States for one full continuous year. That means they come for 365 days. They don't leave the United States before they file N-470, the Form N-470. And it's really hard because most people who are, green card holders are usually traveling back home at least once a year, visiting family or have work, all that kind of stuff. So it's very rare for them to be able to do it. Now, during the pandemic, because people were forced to be in the United States, we got a lot more of these cases than we did before. But again, it's very hard. But the exception is for religious workers. You don't have that requirement on the front end. You do not need to satisfy the 1 year full presence in the United States requirement as a religious worker in this context for filing N-470. However, number 2 is the thing that you need to be conscious of is before you file for citizenship, if you want to take advantage of the approved N-470, you have to have 1 year fully in the United States at that time. So once your religious work abroad is done, you come back, you got to wait 365 days, and then you could stay in the United States. And a bonus there on number 2, the good part is that the time spent abroad for this subcategory, those religious workers, can be counted as physical presence in the United States. So you could go outside for 4 years and count that time towards your requirements for citizenship. Come back, stay here a year in the United States, and file the Form N-400 for citizenship and get it. So it's a pretty magical situation that you would not expect, but it's there. It's in the regulations, and it costs some digging in deep to get it, but it's there. Again, this is for religious workers. For other people watching this for the N-470, other than military people, it doesn't apply to them. Now, importantly, number 3, if you are a married religious worker, and the statute doesn't say religious worker, it says priestly function or minister functions. Religious worker is an R visa. That's for if you're watching this, you probably had one in the past. But I'm using that colloquially just to make it easy. The spouse does not need to file a separate or N-470. They will be covered as part of that application. There's a spot to list your dependents there that are included. And so once your main, religious worker is approved, then the spouse is included on that, and they should be covered for this whole N-470 purpose. Now, number 4, this is very important. Even though you have permission to be outside for extended period of times without affecting your citizenship application, it still undermines your ability to keep your green card because as a green card holder, you're really not supposed to be out for more than 6 months, definitely not out for more than a year because it creates problems for you with what's called abandonment of residency, and they could take your green card away. I don't know why they would approve one form, not automatically approve and say it's okay for being extended outside, but they haven't updated the regulations ever in the statute. So when you are filing an N-470, knowing that you're going to be outside for long periods of time, it's recommended to file for a reentry permit form I-131, I-131. Now, for the reentry permit, it's a very simple document to get. It's simple for me when I file them, but people make mistakes all the time. But you have to know 2 important things. One is you have to physically be inside the United States when you file from I-131 for a reentry permit. You can't be outside when it's the government gets the application. So that's very important. They'll accept the case if you're outside, and then they'll get a denial notice months later, years later, and just waste all that time and money. And secondly, within that, I want you to know is that your spouse will need to submit, if you are married, a separate I-131. Unlike the Form N-470, where just the main applicant will cover the family, for reentry permit, it's only per person. So that'll be there. And there's how long will it take to get the I-131 reentry permit approved? It could be 2 months. It could be 2 years. It's all over the place. People get worried because their case might be pending a year and they don't have it and they've been outside for an extended period of time. Typically, they've been pretty easygoing about it. Have the receipt notice to show you tried. But because of government delays and bureaucracy, you haven't got it, but you intended to get it and all that. And I haven't seen people have problems in those kind of situations. It's always a first, but that's not something I really worry about with my clients too. But I always tell them I haven't seen it be an issue as long as you got it in and you tried. In this particular matter, that seemed to be okay, especially if you have an N-470, because ahead of time you're telling the government they should be aware of it. There's no guarantee that getting a ranch permit will cover you, but practically speaking, it almost always does, unless there's a real rare situation. And number five, I want to get into for the people applying for this N-470, you have to work for, quote, a bona fide organization that is a religious denomination. The bona fide organization, it regards registration, tax ID numbers, all that kind of stuff. The IRS nonprofit aspect that they assign to the church, or if you will. But is it a bona fide denomination as well? Well, that becomes a little tougher. It's easier to show if you're like an old school church, like the Catholic Church, which has almost a structure to it, a government structure to it. But some churches are more loosely connected, and that becomes harder and harder to prove that it's a real religious denomination that's organized in that fashion. And that then requires us to get into the bylaws of the organization, evidence of ownership of land and headquarters and staff and connection with different churches. So it becomes a little bit harder to show that it's really a religious organization. But for most part, if it's a real church and you're really doing the ministerial work, probably it'll work out. You just need more paperwork, letters from the the church, and evidence they've been doing this kind of stuff. So it's a little bit more work to be prepared for that. But I want to give you a heads up for those that aren't in the typical religious, denomination. Again, they're not Catholic, they're not part of Baha'i faith, which is highly organized structurally as well, or other faiths. But I hope that information helped you get started on the road to getting the N-470. Is a wonderful thing that exists and good to use, so you don't lose your place for getting U.S. citizenship and add delays. It's going to help your life a lot. If you want to schedule a private consultation, go to our website, jqqlaw.com/contact. Fill in the box with your name, phone number, email, that kind of stuff, and we'll respond to you. We have a formal consultation. Fees do apply, but we'll give information at that time, what the fees are, what the situation is, to help fill you in. But this typically captures a lot of the main questions people ask us during the consultation. So I want to get that out so you know that before I schedule time, so we get into the nitty gritty of it. You go about your history. That's what the consultation is before. So you can make sure there's not other issues that exist. Analyzing the church itself, what's going on there, people's backgrounds, their ministerial accreditations, their birth certificates and marriage certificates and divorce certificates, all that kind of stuff. We got to talk about and review. So it's deeper than just the stuff. I just want to get this out of the way so you know it and are better prepared. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Bye-bye.